Anyone else? Any questions on policy or about any candidates?
So many people are opposed to the Island Hills project, and we happen to live nearby there. Have you thought about targeting zip codes and people who live around that potential development with mailings that say, here are 3 people for the board, town board, who will be against that project, and it will give you a voice?
Yes, absolutely.
Tom, can you repeat the question?
Sure. The question was, we have this couple who lives near the Island Hills Golf Course, and they were asking if we, as the candidates with 3 voting members that are all against the town, the proposal, if we're going to we're targeting that area to let people know. And the answer is yes, we are doing that. I've been knocking on doors over there. I know Joe, our clerk candidate, has knocked on a ton of doors over there. We're focusing over there. I actually had a guy mention on Facebook the other day that he's this arch conservative and he would never vote for a Democrat, but he's voting for us, and he actually has my lawn sign on his property. So, you know, we're getting through, because and that's something I wanted to mention earlier that I had forgotten. You know, the town issues, it's not about Democrat or Republican. Mayor LaGuardia famously said, there's no Democratic or Republican way to pick up the garbage. And that applies to potholes and the environment and just providing these services, cleaning our parks. It shouldn't be partisan. It should be, how can we work together to get things done, rather than, oh, well, we're only going to protect our own. So that's the type of breath of fresh air I hope to bring to town hall. Yes.
I recently heard that the number 2 issue on most Democrats' mind is the environment. Being an environmental attorney, I'm sure that you have a lot of skin in the game. So I wanted to know, do you have a plan for dealing with some of the environmental issues of our town?
Yes, absolutely. One of the biggest issues facing the town and the county is the nitrogen issue in our water. Most of the country is sewered. Suffolk County, for the most part, is not. Parts of town are, some of them aren't. And what happens is, our waste sits on our lawns, and that nitrogen seeps out and gets into the bay, which causes all these problems that we've been seeing. So how do we get nitrogen out of the bay, right? There's different approaches. There's a study done recently by the county. It says about 25% of the problem is the fertilizer that we use on our lawns. So one way to approach that is education, right? We need to let people know that, hey, stop using this fertilizer on your lawn, there's other approaches. And groups are out there doing that, and they're having a lot of success. When people start to see that connection, they start to make that change. Currently, the town has a resolution that was passed about 10 years ago by one of the town councilmen, John Edwards, had put it up, which would ban the use of the nitrogen fertilizer on town-owned property. The town doesn't abide by that. It's an effect, but they don't do that. So that's one thing that I will do as supervisor. The other big aspect, as I mentioned, was the sewers. Now, the town can't put in sewers on its own. It doesn't have the money, it just doesn't have the money. But what I will do as supervisor is advocate for that. I will fight for that, for the county and with the state, for more money to bring sewers to the rest of the town. You know, I live in Bayport. We're last on the list, right? Oakdale is going to be getting them. After that, it's going to come through West Sable and Sable eventually, maybe. That's the pie in the sky. But we need it everywhere. And we need to attack the nitrogen issue from different areas. And also the other aspect is trees. This is a very simple thing. They bring aesthetic value as well. But when you plant trees, the trees help filter the nitrogen out of the ground naturally, which also helps clean the bay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Tom, I'm going to get into something that I'm going to direct back to something you said a moment ago. Educating the populace not to use nitrogen-based fertilizers.
Yes.
Lack of knowledge on the consumer's part.
Well, the issue with banning the sale of products would be more of a county-wide issue. And would also would be very difficult to implement on a town level. So what I like to do is try to lead by example. You know, I don't use it on my lawn, and I don't want the town to. The town owns a lot of property. So if we do that on the town property, that starts to
Start with your own backyard.
Start with what we can do. And the education really does work. I was at a Sable Civic Association meeting about 1.5 years ago. They came in, they had a crowd that, you know, you wouldn't necessarily think of as a very, you know, environmental crowd, but they listen and they learn, and I see them talking, posting on Facebook about how their lawns look now using clover and things like that. So, you know, people are susceptible, you know, to learning about it. They just need that opportunity. And I think that as a town supervisor, that's a role that should be leading on the issue. It's not, you know, in the job description necessarily of what their roles and responsibilities are, but I don't want to do the bare minimum. I want to rise to the occasion and do the best I can. So that would be my approach. Yes, in that.
Yes, Tom, getting back to these transient-oriented projects like Sangerville, Heartland, and the rest, we're under the assumption right now, what we have in government there, that as long as these big developers come in and meet all the requirements as far as the studies go, that pretty much it's approved. Like, in other words, the politicians' hands are tied by these environmental studies. As long as they prove and hire the best to do these studies, it gets pushed along. Now, is that true, or can this thing be stopped in its infancy before they even, put a shovel in the ground and get these studies?
So no, that's not true. It raises a different issue, which goes to the law, but I will address that. So what happens is the town board votes, say for a second the town board votes down a proposal like that. What's going to happen is the developer is then going to sue the town board. They're going to do an Article 78 proceeding. I don't want to get into the weeds too much about this, which is essentially where they say that decision was arbitrary and capricious. Those are the terms. So what the town needs to do is build a record, right? You pass a resolution, you open things up for comment, and you say, we voted no on this project for this reason. We listened to, these citizens from this part of town who are against it. We looked at the environmental study. We were not satisfied with the results. And you just have to, it's called building the record, so that you have all that information, so that when it does go to court and you do get sued on it, the court will look and say, they backed up their decision. Here it is. It's all there on the record. And that's how you have to approach it. So that opens up another avenue, which is why we need a master plan for the town, so we can hold town hall meetings and say, what does Bayshore want to be in 10 years from now? What does it want to be 20 years from now? And that's going to change, right? It's not going to be one document set in stone. But the last time a master plan done, from my understanding, was back in the 80s. Now, I was born in the 80s, all right? So I can't even imagine what that plan actually looks like. And we need to have these different studies done, just one, so that as the town board, the supervisor, can actually know what their constituents think and know what they want and build towards that. But also so that if it gets challenged in court, we can say, we've got this record there. Yes?
Do you think that the bay, I'm real concerned with the bay.
Yes,
because
me
you can't
too.
even go in it, Can that be reversed? Is this stuff that we can do? And we're a lot of towns that
Yeah.
contribute, Babylon and here, Brookhaven. Can that be reversed?
It can be reversed. We have to deal with the nitrogen problem first and foremost. And that also leads, a lot of people say to me, well, oysters and clams can filter out a lot of the nitrogen. How come we don't just plant those in there? They do that elsewhere. And the reason we don't do it in Islip is because the nitrogen levels are so high in this area that they can't survive, and then they can't actually do the filtering. So we need to get the levels down, then we can start doing more, and we can turn it, we can reverse it. It's not gonna happen overnight, it probably won't happen in 4 years, but we're gonna be set on the road and we're gonna get it done.
Is that primarily sewers?
Sewers is a huge aspect of it. It's probably, I forget the exact numbers, but it was 26% was the fertilizer, and I think probably 70, somewhere around there, was from the lack of sewers. And that was in this county study. You can look, that's publicly available.
And Islip and sewers in Oakdale?
I'm sorry?
Islip's, the sewers end in Oakdale?
Oakdale is next on the list to get.
Yeah, but they end there right now.
They don't, yes,
They don't-
but they're not really in most of Oakdale. So that's, and there were other parts of, other places on Long Island that voted in favor of adding sewers. Great River voted against it. I would have been out, and listen, that was their right. That's why we put things up to a vote. But as supervisor, I would have been out there fighting for it and trying to get people to vote yes on it. And I will give credit, I try to be fair. I don't want to seem partisan. There was one member of the town board, Jim O'Connor, who did just that. So I like, I give him credit. He's also not up for election this year. But he did the right thing there. But the rest of the town board sat silent. They sat in their hands. And also, when that Great River project was voted down, Rich Schaefer over in Babylon and Ed Romaine over in Brookhaven immediately said, hey, we want that money for our areas. We want to fight for that. And it wasn't Angie that stood up and said, hey, let's try to move it to Oakdale. It was Bill Lindsay who stood up and fought for it. So that's an example. We can have supervisors and legislators fight for these things, even if it's not something they directly oversee, and our board's not doing it, and I will as supervisor.